Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer, the host of Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai, where we're going to talk about the Japanese concept of Ikigai, or living a life of purpose. Here you're going to hear inspirational stories from all different types of people who are finding their own life of purpose. You're going to hear about how they found their Ikigai and what they do every day to live an integrated life. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai. I am your host, Jennifer Shinkai, of Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai. How many times can I say it in the first few seconds? I don't know. But today, our theme, it's mushrooms and mountains. We'll go straight for it. And I am so delighted to have someone who I have been Facebook stalking for quite a long time on this very topic, the wonderful Alison Beale. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. And now I've got a few things to say about Alison before we dive in. First of all, thank you. You were the very first person that I saw on the Tokyo Marathon course. We're recording at the beginning of March, and I just completed Tokyo Marathon this weekend. And Alison was my first spectator. And I was so happy to see someone I knew. I wasn't expecting to see her, so it was very exciting. So thank you for being out on the course. It was quite nice weather at that time of day for spectating too. So
it was nice weather, and I was so impressed to see you. You looked really fantastic.
Yes, this was early on in the race. My friends around the 32-kilometer mark, I looked less fantastic.
I'm not sure about that. But I saw the photos. You look great.
Thank you. It was a great experience. But Alison is no slouch when it comes to using her legs, and that is why I wanted to have her on the podcast today, because I have been watching Alison's beautiful Facebook feed of all these mountains of Japan and all these different hikes that she goes on, and I am such a city girl, so I sort of live vicariously through the pictures. And then, she started to change the photos that she was sharing, and there was like all these gorgeous mushrooms. And I don't think I told you this, Alison, but when I was at school, about maybe 15, 16, I think it was like GCSE art, we had to do projects of drawing mushrooms. And like really getting into like the very the lines on like a portobello mushroom or something like that, not the mushrooms that you were doing. So I've always been secretly fascinated. And then, as we're recording this in March, if people are watching TV, you might be watching The Last of Us, and about the mushroom zombie apocalypse, although we're not allowed to say the word zombie, it's not a zombie show. Infected, and how beautiful fungus is. How it also loves. I don't think we'll be getting into the zombie apocalypse today, but I thought it was a very of the moment discussion to talk about mushrooms and mountains, and what the connection to Ikigai is. I just feel, even through social media, Alison's passion, how exciting it is for her. And I just feel like, wow, she's really integrating this sense of what it means to be alive for her. So that's the big build up, Alison. Thank you very much for coming on the show today. So why don't you tell me a little bit, first of all, about like what brought you to Japan? We're both from the UK originally, but what got you here to talk about Japanese mountains?
Well, I came to Japan on the JET program. So right after university, I went to Oxford, and I came out here on the JET program, and I lived in Oita Prefecture. And then living in quite a small rural town. And then I really loved Japan. It was my first really experience of being here. And I just fell in love with the country, started learning the language, and then I got a job, and then I wanted to stay here. And then my career took over. So that's how I got here. And that's why I'm here sort of 25 years later or something. I've lost count a bit.
Yes, I know. It's like when you get to like, okay, over 20 years, and then you realize, oh, hang on, I can update my bio almost. Yeah. It's over 25 nearly, right? You're like,
yeah, ouch. Exactly.
Yeah.
Part of you doesn't want to admit to yourself how long it's been.
Yes. Do you remember that moment that happened when you were like, hang on, I've lived in Japan longer than I've lived in the UK?
Sort of, yes,
Yeah, it's a weird
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah,
feeling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good. But good feeling
Yes.
because
So you,
Japan's
yeah.
amazing.
Sorry.
Because Japan's amazing. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
a great country. And I think, when we look at it from a tourist perspective, a lot of people are really focused on these big metropolises. Let's go to Tokyo, let's go to Kyoto, let's go to Osaka. But you have a different perspective on what makes Japan amazing. And maybe you can first of all talk a little bit about like why you started walking at all.
Okay. I think I've always walked, and I've always liked going out into the mountains. And I think what happened is I used to go out when I felt that I could. So it used to be maybe once a month or once every 2 months. And that's as much as I thought I was really able to do in terms of my time. I thought I was too busy to go more often. But then what happened is I got an injury. And after the injury, I thought, right, I need to, as rehabilitation, I want to go out into the mountains once a week as a way to build back strength and to, walking on uneven ground is very good for building up muscular strength. So I thought I'll go once a week as a promise to myself. And when I started doing that as a kind of rule, I just quickly found out that it was really, really enjoyable, B, that it made me feel just so much better physically and mentally. And also I found out I actually do have time to do this. It's just a question of prioritizing. So after that, I just got a bit obsessed and a bit addicted. And I had to go definitely every week and probably more like 2 times a week, Saturday and Sunday. So
oh wow.
So it really built up.
So it came from a start of rehabilitation. I should do this. I'm going to make this commitment to yourself, and then once you got into the habit, then it sort of grew, became an addiction.
And it took over. Yeah.
I joined, well, as we're recording a few weeks ago, Nick Kemp, who's been on the podcast twice, he wrote a brilliant book called Ikigai Can, and he had an Ikigai summit. And in that Ikigai summit, the amazing neuroscientist Ken Moggy was talking about Ikigai in terms of the dopamine hit that you get from doing some kind of Ikigai related activity. And so I asked a question, because dopamine, I've definitely on my phone, dopamine hit of the scrolling, something happened. Ooh, I feel like I won. And I asked, can we get addicted to our Ikigai? And he said, yes, because you can be addicted to the dopamine of it. So maybe that's what happened to you, Alison. I
think it might be. I do feel it's a bit of an addiction in a good way.
Yes. Yeah, we tend to sort of put the word addiction with a destructive habit, but this is obviously very, very positive for you.
Yes.
Oh, so what's the feeling for you, when you're out in the mountains? Can you just give us a sense of what it's like?
There are so many things about it. One thing is physically being out there, and you must feel this when you do the marathon, actually being physically tired and feeling the blood pulsing around your body, and this hit of oxygen is physical. You said this, the physical thing. And then I also think when I go into the mountains, I never know what I'm going to find out there. I really am interested in plants and, as you say, mushrooms and animals and insects. And whenever I go, I always know that I'm going to find something really, really interesting, and I don't know what it is. So it's that idea of exploration and curiosity. And the other thing that I find is really good is that during the week, my work's quite stressful and quite busy. And I often during the week have these little work problems, and I think, at the weekend I'll have time to really think them through. And then I go to the mountains, and I can't think them through, because when you're in the mountains, you have to focus on your physical safety, on getting where you want to go. There's so much around you. You that naturally don't think about your worries. You think about the present moment. And I actually find that's a really good way of actually finding solutions or kind of dealing with your worries and stresses, because in a way they force you not to think about them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And it's totally, when you started your sentence, I was like, oh, I know what she's going to say on this. And it totally went in a different direction. So that's fascinating that you go thinking, people say, oh, yeah, I get a lot of time to think when I'm on a run or something. But actually, in the mountains, uneven ground, bears, exciting mushrooms to spot, all of these different things. You can't be going, what am I going to do about, Bob in accounting?
Exactly.
It's furthest thing from your mind, or like, how are we going to bring this under budget?
Yeah.
But by having that
kind
space.
Of it's almost kind of like an animal thing. It's like, how do I keep myself safe? And how do I keep myself hydrated? And how do I keep myself at the right temperature? That sounds a bit extreme, but actually that's what you're thinking about when you're out there. You're thinking about much more important things to do with your physical well-being and safety.
And another callback to Ken Moggy talks about that, like being in the moment, imakoko, and also Dr. Akihiro Hasegawa talks about one of the feelings of Ikigai being that sense of being in the now. And so self-actualization, which is what's kind of happening in that space too. I'm glad I want to hang on before we talk about safety. I do want to just I know that a while ago, like years ago, maybe pre-COVID, I wrote a blog about this idea of taking yourself out. It's actually, there's a term for it which I cannot remember now, so I'll have to find it. We'll put it in the show notes. But taking yourself out of the problem, creating space, is often what allows like the synapses to then reconnect. Rather, we're just like staring at the same Excel sheet for the whole time. Like go away, have a walk, cup of tea, talk about something totally different, and then the solution is more likely to present itself. It's like the sleep on it idea. But
well,
yours is walk on it.
Walk on it.
But tell me about safety, because that's sort of one of the things that keeps me from going to the mountains, like especially as a single woman. So tell me about how you navigate that space.
So I built up confidence, I would say. So after promising myself I would go out every week, and I started off going places that I knew and places that were fairly safe. And then I built up the confidence to go much further afield and to much more isolated places and much more difficult places. And so I think I built up confidence. And I think when you go walking, it's a bit like, when you're driving a car, it's dangerous to drive a car. You could end up in an accident and kill yourself. So what do? You wear a seatbelt, you have driving lessons, you get yourself insurance, you adhere to the rules of the road, that sort of thing. And I think really, and by doing that, you don't totally obliterate the possibility that you might get into danger, but you just manage the risks. So it's the same with walking and walking on your own. So I carry a little GPS tag, and I make sure that I have a phone that's charged. I leave a route guide of where I've been. I make sure I've got good equipment. I make sure I've got enough water and food. So I just mitigate risks, and you can't take the risk totally out of it.
Right.
But try and get.
But you do all of the steps along the way. And as you mentioned, beginning on beginner trails.
Yes.
That are like more widely populated, and then gradually. Yeah. Do you ever hike with others or walk with others, or?
I do. I like that. I do like that. So I like doing that sometimes, but I also like being able to look at the weather forecast, and I like to wake up on Saturday morning and look at the weather and think it's really sunny in Nikko, but it's rainy down in Hakone, therefore I'm going to go to Nikko. And if you're with somebody, you have to make a plan and you have to make a time when you're going to meet, and it's much more constrained. So I think they're two different types of things.
Right.
So I like going on my own and just exploring and deciding in the moment what I want to do. And then I also like the experience of going with people or with someone and having a, you know, more sociable experience. And it's a different type of experience.
Yeah. Definitely different. I feel that like for my for running as well.
Yes.
Like running on my own. I actually did, for this marathon, I did more long runs on my own than I'd ever done. But I did have the company of several podcasts. So thank you to the Ringiverse for their deep dives on various fandoms. But then I have a running club, and I love running with my running club as well. Like it's, but as you say, we're going to be in the place at the time the course is set. So whereas if I just want to like, stop and take some photos, or actually maybe I'll add a bit or take away a bit, it's harder to do with other people. So
definitely,
different sports,
different things. Yes.
And when you like first got started, so if you said like here's the beginner's mountain from someone in Tokyo who's like listening today, what's the top recos?
I think Takao-san is amazing. It's so close to, it's an hour, it's less than an hour from Shinjuku. And the thing I love about Takao-san is there are so many different routes up it. So there are some that are very, very popular. And I think when people think of Takao-san, they think there are lots of people on it. But actually, when you go there, I would say 80% of the people are on one route.
Right.
And that means there are lots of routes with hardly any people on them, or very few people on them. So I never find it a crowded mountain. I find that there are some much more famous high mountains that are a lot more crowded than Takao-san can be. And then the other thing about Takao-san is it's got such a rich plant and mushroom fungus.
Yes, you must get onto the mushrooms.
Yes. Yeah, so it's got such a rich kind of nature. It's got so much biodiversity. Because it's a low mountain. If you get very, very high mountains, then you get less diversity in the kind of wildlife you find there. But Takao-san is just wonderfully interesting, and I go there about 30 times. I climb Takao-san maybe 30 times a year.
Oh, wow.
Every time I feel I find something new or different. It's a great mountain.
Oh, wow.
But there are other places like Tanzawa or Hakone or Nikko. We're so lucky in Tokyo. Most of the things I do are on a day trip. So I get in the morning and it's a couple of hours by train or bus and I'm out there. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing to think about, like going back to the same place and still discovering something new, still kind of finding that. And I noticed from your social media posts the seasonal diversity as well. So it's always really fascinating to see where you are and how the seasons are changing too. So that feels like very in the moment as well.
Yeah. Does, and it feels when you go out every weekend you can feel it changing every week. And so there's all this debate about Japan has 4 seasons or not, but actually I think it probably has almost 365 seasons.
Isn't there a thing there's like a micro seasons, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah,
I don't know too much about it, but
you can Google it. Like I can't remember the name of it, but there's something and you can find out. Like I remember one day I went out for a run and it was like the first time to see dew on the grass. And then it said these 3 days are the season of dew on the grass. I was like, whoa.
Yes, that's
I don't know about global warming, but that was quite impressive for me.
I've seen that actually, and I've had the same experience. I think last week it was the day when, I think it's called, I can't remember, but it's the day when the frogs start to come out and things start to bloom. And it is true. The day before, I just heard frogs for the first time. It's very, very old people have a lot of wisdom, don't they?
They do, yeah. And close looking, like observation and awareness.
Yes.
That if you're just, going to the station every day on your commute and you're not really looking around you and you don't really notice.
You don't
But
notice.
walking gives you a different vantage point.
Yes.
And as you said, because you're in this state where, you're sort of in that survival mode, basically, although it's not necessarily treachery on every step, but your senses are alert in a different way too.
Yes. Yeah. You're looking in the undergrowth and just aware of things, and
so and looking in the undergrowth for mushrooms. I think it's the mushroom moment right now. so tell me about the mushrooms and the fascination.
One thing that one thing that I love about the mountains, and the reason I call it my Ikigai, is that it's really just expanded. So at first it was mountain walking, and then I found I was taking a lot of photographs, and so it was mountains and taking nice photographs and looking, and ordering the photographs, and then it was being interested in plants and flowers, and then it was mushrooms. I discovered mushrooms, and it was really one day I went out. It was actually in Okutama, and I went out to a walk I knew very well, and suddenly the entire forest floor was covered in the most amazing mushrooms. And they seem to have come up overnight. Oh, wow. And it does happen sometimes. It's like, it is a bit like kind of fairy dust or something.
Who could say it's not?
It might be. It might be, because sometimes you just go and there's just so many of these incredible mushrooms. And I just remember this one time in particular that they were huge, big mushroom. I've never actually had that experience since, to have so many really big ones so suddenly. and then you go back the next week and think, right, I'm going to, I've got my book with me, and I've got my magnifying glass, and suddenly they're all gone. So they come and then they go. So they're quite magical.
So, we're coming up to cherry blossom season, and it's always, cherry blossoms about the transience of life, but maybe mushrooms.
Yes, yeah.
Mushrooms are the things we should be looking for all year round.
Absolutely. And it makes you really think that there's a different life to the one that we know. So we know the kind of terrestrial life, we know about life above ground, but when you start to look at mushrooms, you realize, because most of the actual fungus is underground, right. And the actual mushroom is just the fruiting body, so it's just a small part that you see of the actual organism, and you actually realize that there's a huge life going on that you can't see, that we're not at all aware of. And then suddenly, it rains and the conditions are right, and then suddenly their world comes into our world and two worlds collide.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Amazing. It's quite terrifying, as I said, I am watching The Last of Us with the mushroom apocalypse, where they're all like turning, the cordyceps are taking over people's brains, and they're all connected and networked. But from a metaphor perspective, I'm just thinking as well about how we show up in the world. And we only see like the fruit of the people of the mushroom, but what's going on, and what are all those tendrils and the life that's happening for them in the back, right? Complicated and complex, interconnected.
It is really quite deep when you start to think about it, and you realize there's all this stuff going on underground that you're just not aware of.
Amazing, I think. Yes, but silence doesn't make for a good podcast, so I need to ask another question. I want to sit and think about these mushroom tendrils going out. But one of the things you'd said when we were planning the podcast was talking about this additive, not the addictive, but the additive nature of how your experience has changed.
Yes.
It just sounds so, it's each step is getting richer for you.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Because now I like to go out, and so I've discovered mushrooms. So now it's it's also a question of going out, finding things, and then looking them up, and actually researching these fungi or these plants or these insects that I'm seeing, and then kind of I've started writing a blog about it, and then it's just led to other things. So it just feels that everything sort of opens up and then expands outwards. So it's been really kind of enriching and taken me in lots of different places. It was really, I've always liked the mountains and I've always liked walking, but it really started off as just kind of walking in the mountains, and it's totally expanded my my interests, and I feel that it's continually expanding, and I'm kind of interested to see where it will take me next.
Yes, I like that, because so often people maybe say like, oh well, I don't know if that's gonna like be the thing.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry about it. Just try the thing first,
Yes.
and who knows what it will open up to,
Yes.
the next opportunity or the next thing, which is just going to make your life a bit more joyful or enriching. And what I love about what you've described, you have this this experience in nature, and then taking some photos, and then you're going back, and then you're doing this research, and it's sort of deepening, and then thinking about like what maybe you're like, what else would I like to see, what the mushrooms on my quest. And have you got some must see mushrooms, or like you want to track down in Japan?
Oh, definitely. I've got a list. And
Yes.
whenever I see one, it's so exciting.
What's the king of mushrooms for you, Alison?
Oh, I can't remember the name.
The monarch
There are so
of
many kind of
mushrooms.
interesting ones that I have seen in books. I just am kind of dying to see. I'd like to see more cordyceps. I've only seen one once.
Be careful what you wish for.
I know. I don't.
Beautifully terrifying in the Last of Us universe, anyway.
Yeah. I must. I don't think I want to watch this program you're talking about.
We'll talk about it later. It's
Yeah.
worth it. It's great. But I mean, one of the things I guess is that it's actually a bit like the conversation here. It's less actually about the mushrooms and more about what the meaning is, and what does it tell us about like our humanity and who we are. With some violence.
Oh, right. Sounds good.
TV show based on a video game.
Good.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah, no, I was just going to say it's kind of nice because the other reason why I see it as my kind of Ikigai is that I really have a busy time at work, and I kind of love my work, but this also provides a kind of external structure to my life, because I go on a trip to the mountains on Saturday, Sunday, and then on Monday it's kind of debriefing, researching what I've seen, maybe writing about it. Then about Wednesday it's kind of looking at the weather very obsessively, and then planning where I might go, doing the logistics by Friday, and then going out on Saturday and Sunday. So it really provides a nice framework around my professional life as well.
Yes. Yeah, like the structure of it too, and having that I think tanoshimi is a really important part of Ikigai, like having something to look forward to. So whether it's the wish list of mushrooms, but also the like, oh, this weekend this is the trail, this is where I want to go, this is I'm sure you do like preparing your bag, all of those little rituals along the way as well. So one of the reasons when I asked you, like, why would you like to be on the podcast? You were like super passionate about sort of sharing your story and encouraging people. So if someone's thinking, should I do, like, what advice would you give someone?
I think the first thing is to just kind of get out and start simply. And I as I said before, I always used to think that I didn't have time, and that I used to think, oh no, I've got to clean up my house, and I've got to do my washing, and I've got to go and meet this person, and I've got this admin to do. But then once you start going and getting hooked, you realize that actually you do have more time in your life than you really think.
Right.
Often. Yes. And so I would say kind of starting just kind of getting into the routine of going out. And the other thing is, I think a lot of people don't realize what an amazingly rich kind of environment we have around us. And so I think even when I come back and I show my photos, even to Japanese people who have been living in Tokyo all their lives, they really surprised that this thing exists in Japan, and it's just actually 2 or 3 hours away from us. So I think there's so much out there to discover that it's really getting out and seeing it. So important.
So just to try it, just to do that first thing. And did you feel, though, for you, because you made at the beginning, did you say, I'm going to go out every week until this date? Did you give it like a close point for the rehabilitation piece?
Yes, I think I did. I think I was like, I'm going to go out every until I feel strong again and my injury's over. I'm going to go out once a week. And I thought, it'll be a bit of a drag, but I'm just going to stick with it. And it really did. Because what I found is it wasn't just physically good for it was also mentally good. This idea of dopamine hit. I really felt that. I felt also, I wasn't just physically getting tired, but my mind was so getting so fresh. And it means that when I go back to work on Monday, I'm physically tired, and sometimes I sit at my desk and I feel my muscles are hurting and I feel physically tired, but I always feel mentally very fresh, because if you go out into the mountains, if you do a lot of exercise, if you get a lot of oxygen,
I want to call it. Is it minus eon?
Oh yeah, minus eons. Yes.
What is that? I don't know what this is, but I hear it talked about a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure. Don't they come out from, I don't know, the tree? I don't know.
And it's good for you, right? Some kind of different type of air quality. Okay, let's edit this bit out.
We'll figure it out.
English literature major. That's all I have to say exactly. For myself.
But it just makes me feel very, very motivated at the beginning of the week, right? Whereas otherwise, if I don't do anything, maybe I come on Sunday nights, oh gosh, I've got to go to work tomorrow, and I go into work feeling, oh, here I go, I don't feel as fresh as if I've had a really good break, a really good sleep, and I feel just really ready to take things on again. I feel very, very motivated. So I just kind of realized how many positive things there were about it.
Right.
That's why I got addicted.
Yes. I need to have your shameful voice at the end of.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good thing. It doesn't seem to be harming anyone, only helping them. So I think if addiction is not having those negative impacts, we're good to go.
Yes.
Really sounds like it's enhancing that professional life and your personal life as well.
Yeah, it is.
And if one thing we did talk about before, though, when we were planning was thinking about like different types of culture, of like walking culture versus hiking culture versus trail running. And you've mentioned before about understanding the rules of the road. So people decide they want to go out, they make some commitment. Okay, I'm going to do it like every week for 6 weeks, something like that seems manageable. Is there anything else that it's really good for first time walkers in Japan specifically to know?
No, I mean, I think one thing is that there are so many ways to enjoy the mountains, because I think some people say to me, they maybe look at my Facebook page and they say, oh, I could never do that because maybe, and sometimes it's physically or sometimes it's because they don't like heights or some other thing. But I always think there's so many different ways that you can enjoy the mountains. You, like you say, you can go hiking or you can go trail running, and these obvious things like mountain biking. But then I know some people when I go out, they go cooking in the mountains and they take a little camp stove and they cook these amazing, they go somewhere that seems quite close and they cook these amazing meals, simple camp meals, and enjoy them outside.
Right.
And I know people go sort of camping, or some people go up Takao-san on the Cape, or on the little train.
Yeah.
And they just go for a little walk on the
like around the summit,
top, which is on a fairly straight path. And I think all of those things are really, really nice ways to enjoy the mountain. And you shouldn't feel that, oh, I need to be a mountain climber, I need to climb something really, really hard or do something very hardcore, or I need to have certain kit, or I need to have a certain mental disposition. I think there's just so many different ways you can enjoy the mountains in different ways. And maybe it's just going up a cable car, or maybe you could take one of those camping chairs and sit in the forest and enjoy those negative eons or whatever we were talking about.
Just leave that conversation. Yes, chairing, I believe it's called. Chairing. My husband bought us some chairs during COVID, and we went to the park and went chairing.
Oh, and did you enjoy it?
We did, because it was when you were supposed to be social distancing.
Yes.
So they said if you go out, like, don't be near other people. So if you take your own chair, you can sit wherever you like, and we get like a canned coffee from the vending machine. Yeah. Gorgeous. And sit in the park for a little bit. It was very nice.
Yeah.
Still have them. And now sometimes we camp in our garage.
Yeah, that's
a little fire out. Neighbors think we're crazy, but that's quite cool too.
It is.
And you've reminded me, so there's the biodiversity of the mountain, but then there's the diversity of experience on the mountain as well. And it, like, reflection for myself is, running a marathon.
Yes.
Did I run the same marathon as those elite people who doing it, 2 hours and 5 minutes? Distance-wise, yes.
Yes, yeah.
Intensity, no. Did we have the same experience? No. But did we all come home with a medal? Yes.
Exactly, yes.
But everyone is. What I really like actually about being a slow runner is you do see all these different types of bodies, and you see all these different types of challenges that people are overcoming. And in the marathon, like, you realize everyone is running a race for themselves, overcoming something.
Yes, yeah.
But we're all out there enjoying. Independent. I think enjoying. People don't do it again.
Yeah, but I mean, people, you do it in a different way, don't you? Some people want to just run, like really run and be out the front, and then there's just lots of different ways you can enjoy things, and you don't have to think running a marathon or being a mountaineer means a specific thing. You can. Yes. There are lots of different levels.
Not mandatory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's really important, especially when it comes to the idea of Ikigai, because one of the challenges that researchers find is it's a lived experience.
Right.
So it isn't quantifiable
Right. Yes.
in a way which is necessarily comparable,
I
because
see.
it's so qualitative
Mm.
in terms of how you measure it. So someone can't come up to you and say, no, Alison, the mushrooms and mountains cannot be a source of Ikigai. It's not allowed. You're like, well, it
Interesting.
is for me. So there you go.
Yeah.
And someone else will say, well, for me, it's, doing something else. It's doing art, or it's like watching my grandchild grow up. Yeah,
Mm.
all good, and
Yeah.
all multiple different ways.
Yeah. That's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. So I'm looking at my clock and realizing I have to ask my final two questions.
Right.
Which is, so the first one is, what's the question I should have asked you, which I haven't yet asked you?
Ah, okay. So there's one thing when I was thinking about mountains and Ikigai that I thought, kind of, what are the sort of lessons that I've learned or the things that I've taken away? And one thing that I found has been really good for me, I can't say that I've necessarily put this into practice or very well, but
Mm-hmm.
it's about dealing with fears.
Ooh, tell me
Because
more.
there've been a few times when I've been in the mountains where I've suddenly found myself in a situation where I'm quite scared. So I've either been at the top, I found that I'm at the top of a snow slope and it's much more snowy than I thought. And I've got to get down. I can't go back. I've got to go down it. Or I've come to a kind of ridge and it's very, very steep and scary. And I think, I really don't want to do this, but I can't go back. So really being affronted by scary situations. And the thing that I've really found and I've really benefited from going out walking is getting the understanding that that being fearful actually doesn't help, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a kind of, if you find yourself in a scary, dangerous situation, then you have to somehow deal with those fears and you have to put them aside and you have to focus on getting through and getting to the other side. So you have to focus totally on where you're going to put your feet and how you're going to keep your balance and how you're going to get through this. And the voice in your head that's saying, oh, this could be terrible, or you could fall, or this must, is actually really not helpful. And you need to somehow shut it down. And when I find I'm in town and I'm in maybe a work situation, I find it much more difficult to turn off the voice. But when you're in physical danger, you have to turn off the voice. So it's been quite, I think that kind of lesson about learning to confront fears and work through them and turn off this voice, or understanding when the voice is helpful and when the voice is not being helpful and you need to just turn it off.
Right.
I think
What sort of that's brilliant. I love it. What strategies do you have to turn that off in the moment?
I think the thing is that when you're physically in danger, your rational self takes over, and so you think, me having a racing heartbeat and me thinking about all the worst case scenarios that could happen. This needs to stop. I need to take a few deep breaths and I need to just focus on the task at hand and getting through it. And so it's actually, it forces you. So I think the next step is I would like to understand better how I can apply that to other situations, because because it is sometimes I find it hard to turn off this voice in my head sometimes that says, oh, this is really scary, this is difficult, oh, you could really fail in this, or
career suicide, something.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's really interesting. In systems coaching, there's a process we talk about the triggered self, right? Which is this part of you, which is quite rightly triggered when you're in this physical danger, saying, Alison, you 1 foot wrong, you're down the side of here, it's game over. right?
Yeah.
Not wrong. But as you said, your rational self, or in the systems coach, we talk about like the adult self.
Oh yes.
Steps in. We basically try and work out like, what's this triggered self here? Why have they shown up? Why do they not trust us to deal with this? And then it's sort of creating an agreement between the adult self and the triggered self. So in this case, you're doing that. You're saying, okay, scared me. Got it. Yeah, it is dangerous. You're right.
Yeah.
Your job's done. You can go to the back now.
Yeah.
You've hit the alarm button. Thank you very much. Thanks for your service. Now, rational Alison is going to put this foot and then this foot, because the heart racing that you're making happen, keep pressing the alarm button. We don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
Alarm's been pressed. So you're actually doing that.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So now, you can apply that idea to when you're in a meeting and your nervous system is in exactly the same way, imagining you're in exactly the same type of danger, because our brains are stupid and haven't evolved to realize that side of a mountain versus meeting with marketing, not the same. not the same danger, but still all of the same patterns are showing up. So you can be like, okay, what's the danger that you're alerting me to? What are you trying to protect me to? Protect me from? And then, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So you don't need to keep pressing the alarm button now. I'll give you another job. And then, so you can negotiate an alliance with this triggered self.
Oh yeah, that's such an interesting way to think about it. It is that. And then, afterwards, it's good afterwards when you come down and you're, in the onsen and having a beer and you think, oh gosh, that was scary. And so in future, I need to do this, this, and this, because that was not a nice situation. But
so you have that like debrief as well.
So it serves a function, but just not at the time.
yes. I think that's interesting too, to have the idea as well. I guess I'm thinking, when you do experience some kind of extreme fear or trauma in that way, then you're able to look at other things in your life and go, it's not really a problem, is it?
Yes,
you've stretched your resilience and your tolerance for challenge.
Yes,
that's why people do marathons, right?
Wow, yes.
But because I'm thinking, I remember training for a marathon a long time ago and just going, I've given birth twice without drugs. I can keep running. I'm fine. I've got this. Like my body can handle this.
Yes,
So the same thing. I've been on this ridge.
Yes.
Or I've come down, I went down that snowy path.
Yes.
And with no injury and survived it. So I think I can hit this deadline.
Yes, no, it's true.
And my final question for you, Alison, thank you. That was a great question that I didn't ask, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. It's really rich. My final question is, if you have a closing message for the listeners and the watchers on YouTube of Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai, what's the final thing? They only take away one thing from this podcast. What would you like them to remember?
I guess that, I've kind of talked about what I've got from my hobby and what I've learned from it and how it's, but the other thing is just really good fun. And going out into the mountains, I always have just so many nice interactions with people, because you're out into the mountains and you meet other people who are like you, and you always stop and have really nice conversations about something, and you realize kind of how nice and supportive people are, and how friendly people around you are. So it's just a kind of nice, fun thing to do. That's life affirmative.
Wow, that's great. A great final message. So it's also the community, the people, the health benefits, the impact on your professional self. So I hope that everyone who listens to this goes out, So I hope not all on the same trail. Takes a walk, but even if it's just like in your local park, you know, there's many ways to experience nature, and to get all those benefits that Alison has been talking about. So thank you very much, Alison, so much for everything. Hopefully we'll get like the links to your blog so people can follow all of these wonderful pictures as well and find out about the miraculous mushrooms planting around. And of course, if you know some great trails you want to recommend to Alison, I'm sure she'd love to hear those as well.
Yes.
So thank you for being with us today, and enjoy your weekend wherever you are heading out.
Thank you. So it's been such fun talking about this.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye.